Glory to Jesus Christ. It's here again. Oh no! The great fast is here again, and it starts on Monday in earnest. Monday is Clean Monday, a day of strict fasting and abstinence, as once again, for another year, we begin the great fast. I think "oh no" will be an understandable reaction from anybody when they're thinking about penance and fasting and prostrations, all of which we will do. Oh no, indeed. But I think that when we think only in terms of the negatives, we're missing the wood for the trees. God calls us into the desert, into the fast, to bring us closer to himself, to unite us with himself. You know, as Jesus, right after his baptism, right after he heard the Father's voice calling him his beloved Son, right after that experience of God and that revelation of his own identity, then he had to go into the wilderness, into the desert. And just as we have very recently celebrated Christ's baptism, celebrated the theophany, now we too need to follow with him into the desert, into the wilderness, to really put that to the test. And I suppose more than anything else, what was tested for Jesus by the devil whom he encountered in the wilderness was that call, was the Father's voice calling him his beloved Son. And we see in the temptations of Jesus that the evil one came to him 3 times and said, if you are the Son of God, then try this and try that. And while you're at it, worship me, if you are the Son of God. That's a shaking of his identity. That's a questioning of what the Father's voice had said. Just as much as right from the days of the Garden of Eden, Satan has been encouraging humans to second guess what God says to them. Has God really said you will die if you eat that plant? Maybe he's holding out on you. Maybe he knows you'll become like a god yourself if you eat this plant. You should give it a try. Make your own decisions. The devil is very good at it. He has many thousands of years' experience of teaching all humans, to distrust the Father's voice. And that's so sad, because the Father's voice says to you and to me exactly what it said to Jesus. You are my beloved Son, in whom my favor rests. You are my beloved daughter, in whom my favor rests. But if you think about it, when someone pays us a compliment, we usually end up forgetting it rather quickly. You know, and even as I say this, I'm aware that somebody gave me a beautiful compliment this week, and I can't, at the moment, at least not while I'm talking, I can't remember what it was, which is really sad because it was a wonderful compliment. And yet, if someone says the slightest negative about it, if someone says something that makes us question ourselves or second guess ourselves, or even worse, second guess God, we could hold on to it for the rest of our lives if we're not careful. I wonder what it is about having been kicked out of paradise as a race that makes us nurture the negative and hold on to the things that make us question what is good and what God has said to us. So we too now, as we enter the fast tomorrow afternoon, in theory it begins with Forgiveness Vespers, which we'll celebrate after liturgy. As we enter the fast, we're following in the footsteps of Jesus to learn what it means to be God's beloved son, God's beloved daughter. And there's a prophecy in the book of the prophet Hosea. And he says, he's talking about Israel. He's talking about his chosen people. He's talking about his bride. He's talking about the church. He's talking about you and me. But the Lord says through the prophet, he says this, I am going to allure her. I will lead her into the wilderness, and I will speak tenderly to her. I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and justice, in loving kindness and mercy. I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know the Lord. That's the purpose of the fast. You know, the first monks and nuns, the desert fathers and mothers, literally went into the desert, as Jesus had done, to get closer to God, to put aside all the distractions and the temptations and the sin, and to go into the wilderness so that they could hear God, so that they could come to know God in righteousness and justice, in loving kindness and mercy, as the prophets said. And even though we don't physically go out into the desert, although given that we live in Arizona and we're not yet in the baking heat of the summer, it might be possible to actually, literally, go out into the desert for a day or an afternoon, or maybe even longer. Because there's something very beautiful and very sacred about the desert. And if ever there were a metaphor for this 40 days and 40 nights of penance and prostrations and fasting that we begin, it's the metaphor of a wilderness, the metaphor of a desert. But it's a desert that we've chosen. It's a desert that we've embraced, so that we can hear God speaking to us tenderly, so that we can hear that we are beloved sons and daughters, and so that one day, as he says, we will be betrothed to him forever. He promised to marry us. This is a marriage proposal. He's saying, do you want to marry me? And I love the earnestness that you can hear. I'm not quite sure what allure means, but you can hear the passion and the ardor of a suitor who's very, very, very much in love with his beloved. And you hear his determination. I am going to make her mine, whatever it costs. Think of any romantic movie that you like. Think of your favorite. I am going to make her mine. And I will lead her wherever I need to, so that she can listen to me, so that she can hear my voice speaking tenderly, so that she can listen to me and not all the junk that's going on around her. And he says, and there I will speak tenderly, and there I will betroth you to myself forever. The desert, the wilderness, it's a temporary thing. The fast is a temporary thing, thank God. And what follows immediately after the great fast? The wedding, the banquet, the celebration, the betrothal forever, the marriage of the Lamb. God will betroth you and me to him in faithfulness and all those other good things, loving kindness and mercy. He will betroth us to him forever in Pascha. So let us go out into the desert so that we can hear him, so that we can listen to his proposal, and so that when Pascha comes, we will come out of the desert, out of the fast, prepared for the banquet, wearing beautiful wedding garments. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Amen.